Hello and good evening, I'm Melisa Idris.
And I'm Sharaad Kuttan.
You're watching Consider This, the show where we want you to consider and then reconsider what you know of the news of the day. Of course, one of the biggest news of the day has been that Anwar Ibrahim announced earlier today that he has been granted an audience with the Yang Di-Pertuan Agong next Tuesday. Now, we reached out to Anwar and his spokesperson, but both declined to speak to us tonight. However, we will still hear from PKR. A little later in the show, we will be speaking to the chief of PKR Youth, and we'll also hear from a Bersatu Supreme Council member on how the current government views this development. But before that, we want to give some time on the show to discuss the conditional MCO that will be implemented in Klang at midnight tonight, specifically regarding the earlier confusion over which area the CMCO would impact. Joining us on the line now, we have Selangor State Exco member Datuk Teng, Chang, Khim. He holds the investment, industry, trade and SME portfolio. Good evening. Now, if I may begin with Senior Minister Ismail Sabri Yaakob, have since clarifying that the CMCO will only be for the sub-district of Klang and not other areas like Port Klang or Kapar. Now, if I may ask you about the initial confusion, why was there initial confusion and what has been the impact of that confusion? The CMCO will
well, I don't know why it is the ministers were now CMCO on the Port Klang, and obviously there was a big mistake because in terms of local jurisdictions, I actually two local jurisdictions, one under the district of Klang and one is under the municipal council of Klang, and both cover different areas, and this has to be made clear from very beginning. In fact, if the federal government has consulted the state government on this issue before the announcement was made, then it would not make such a mistake. And that has caused a lot of panic among the people until even this afternoon, because most of the people think that the whole Klang is involved. And as you know, that tens of thousands of people are traveling between Klang and Kuala Lumpur every day for work and for other matters. And whether their movement will be restricted as a result of this MCO, all this has no answer until this afternoon, when before the announcement was made, the National Security Council meeting was called, and all the clarifications were given by Selangor as to the seriousness of that announcement. Only then the federal government has corrected himself. But I hope that this will reduce the panic among the people. But damage has been done as far as this announcement is concerned.
You know, we also understand that last Saturday the National Security Council convened a meeting, but it excluded Pakatan Harapan-led states. And I wonder if you have any sense of why this is happening. Why are the Pakatan-led states not included in a national planning meeting around the pandemic? And is this a form of political punishment?
Harapan-led states. And I wonder if you have any sense of why this is happening. Why are the Pakatan-led states not included in a national planning meeting around the pandemic? National Security Council is concerned, they should comprise of all the representatives from the state. And therefore, it is to me very strange that the representatives from Selangor was not invited. If the politicians were not invited, and at least the civil servants should be invited so that we can give a clearer picture on what is happening at the ground. And I think that the federal government has failed to do that, and as a result has caused this bundle.
Right, well, okay, I want to kind of look at what might happen in the future. So previously, Selangor had some of the highest cases of COVID-19, and you're talking about an area with such high density. It's not difficult to imagine that there could be future spikes in cases in the future and the subsequent lockdowns. Now, how prepared is the Selangor state government and also businesses in the state in the event of an announcement announcement of a future CMCO or even a future TEMCO? It's not difficult to imagine
all the data are actually collected and kept by the federal government. There should be more communications between the federal and the state government so that we can assist more effectively with the state government. And during the MCO, we have been cooperating very closely with the federal government, and that should continue. I do not understand why such communication has not been continued, but I think that the CMCO and Klang issues were actually enlightened the federal government on more communications with the state. For this incident, for example, if we have more deliberations, more discussions between both the government, then incidents like this will not happen. And this is to me a lesson to the federal government that all state governments, irrespective of Barisan or Perikatan or the Pakatan, more communications is required in dealing with public matters.
Can I just get you to clarify, Dr. Teng, are you saying that during CMCO there was a lot of consultation, there was sharing of data information, and now there's less so? Is that correct?
Yes, during the MCO, they were very constant, I would say that a very frequent meeting, even at the state level of National Security Council. But after that, there was very limited communication. And in this case, the CMCO of Klang, there was no communication at all.
Why is that, sir? Why is that?
Only the federal government can answer that. Perhaps they are complacent with the development and too confident about the federal government's capabilities of handling the matters without assistance from the state.
I want to ask you about Selangor's task force on COVID-19. Is the task force of the opinion that this particular decision to have a CMCO in Klang is necessary? Do they, as a matter of practice, weigh in on questions of whether there should be a lockdown or restriction movements in particular parts of Selangor? Of the opinion that this particular decision to have a CMCO in Klang is necessary? Do they, as a matter of practice, weigh in on
to come up with opinions? But as far as the concerns, we will rely very heavily on the federal government's data and decisions. But we always hope that there will be consultations, because certain matters is actually within the knowledge of the state and not within the knowledge of the federal government. So I think that there should be periodical conversations between the two governments.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us and clarifying the matter. We really appreciate your time. We're going to take a quick break on Consider This. After this, we'll discuss the likely scenarios from Anwar Ibrahim's meeting with the Agong on Tuesday. That's all coming up. Stay tuned on Consider This. Well, thank you so much for joining us and clarifying the matter. We appreciate your time. It's all coming up. Stay tuned on Consider This. Hi, you're watching Consider This. I'm Melisa. Idris. With me is Sharaad Kuttan. This afternoon, leader of the federal opposition, Anwar Ibrahim, issued a statement that he had been granted an audience with the Yang di-Pertuan Agong at Istana Negara next Tuesday. Now, this comes 16 days after he first claimed to have, quote, a strong, formidable and convincing majority of parliamentary support to form a new government. Joining us on the show tonight, we have Akmal Nasir, PKR Youth Chief. Akmal, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Now, critics of Anwar Ibrahim are saying that the timing for this attempt to take control of the government could not be worse. Now, is there any justification for this move in the midst of the current public health crisis?
Well, I mean, first of all, Alhamdulillah, the king has granted the audience with him, so that will stop any rumors or speculation. And as we are all aware, Malaysia, the whole world, in fact, is facing the crisis of COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the economic crisis. But as what you can reflect with this latest amanat khas Sharaad or Prime Minister's special announcement a few days ago, it seems quite clear that the way public reacts, that we are actually, as a country, directionless. We know things are not going well. They are losing touch with the public sentiment on the ground. And the worst part is about the double standard treatment. For us, as the Member of Parliament, as an opposition now, of course, we have to hold the people in power accountable. We have to make sure they are respecting the law and they have to follow what public expect them to do. So in that background, I think it's very clear we are all aware the need to have an integrity, the accountable government. But yet, for me, for Datuk Seri Anwar, he has the obligation, a sense of duty to inform the majority when he has the numbers, when he has the majority. So,
clearly the question of whether he has the majority will be proven true or otherwise in the weeks to come. I want to ask you this because it seems like the public is actually quite divided. They're interpreting politics in very, very different ways. Now, is this move to take power, take control based on a presumed majority, a personal agenda of Anwar's? Is it just about making Anwar the Prime Minister, or is it about Anwar having a clearly different strategy from the current government in terms of public policy, especially in terms of handling this pandemic?
Because for me, this is the obligation for all of us has. Basically, we want things to get better. We want to move forward beyond this political instability. And for me, for Datuk Seri Anwar, when he has managed to get the majority, let's make things clear. So the very fact that we respect the constitution, we respect the role of the majesty, so it is quite clear we need to move beyond this innuendo, beyond this political instability. So the critics may feel like, why now? But exactly it should be now. Until when we want to wait these uncertainties or this directionless of this country, and will make things worse, not just by years, but by months or even by days.
Okay, all right. Well, you said a little bit earlier, Akmal, that you accuse the current government of losing touch with the sentiment on the ground. That there is a current sentiment that feels like they disagree with what the current government is doing. But I wonder whether Anwar Ibrahim has also in touch with the sentiment of the ground. Do you think that the Malaysian public has an appetite for more politics right now?
Well, that's why we have to be clear in terms of what we want to achieve at the end of the day. We really want to make this country better. We really want to move beyond this political fighting that has no stop or that has no way to go. So for me, this is the best way for us to finally resolve this, not to say once for all, but the option is there. And for us, it's not just about the MPs to decide, but the mandate has been given to the MPs through the election last year. And then things change. I mean, for me, I disagree with langkah Sharaad. So we have to find ways how to actually resolve this current situation and try to bring back all
Akmal, could you tell us who in Parliament is supporting Anwar Ibrahim in his bid to become Prime Minister? And aren't these the same people who were supporting the Perikatan government, now moving into an Anwar government? Presumably it will also be a source of instability. Will instability disappear as a consequence of Anwar taking over as Prime Minister?
It will remain to be seen. And in terms of to get the majority, basically we have to rely with the current MP. Who are them? I mean, we have to give all the respect to the process, to Yang di-Pertuan Agong, to actually go through and to confirm either we can proceed or not. Okay. So in that matter, for us, for Anwar, what is more important is the leadership. what he is trying to offer. How do we can actually get everyone to act together? We should put aside about all this offer to get the position, offer to get some perks, when what we want is actually to move beyond this crisis and try to get things together.
Do you think that this move risks a dissolution of Parliament?
I don't think that would be the best option. We should learn from Sabah as what we are facing now in terms of COVID-19. So in that case, it will be the best for us to make it very smooth and focus on the objective of getting our act together and move forward.
But Akmal, that was exactly Musa Aman's argument to the then government of Warisan. This is not a decision that is in Anwar's hands. If he pushes through, he could in fact get a reaction that includes the dissolution of Parliament. Are you willing to take that risk?
But that's the thing. For Datuk Seri Anwar, he has the obligation to inform His Majesty that he has the majority. It will be up to the Constitution, to the King, to decide what will be the best for the country. So for him, he has done his duty, and we have to make sure whatever interest that we have, it should be the best for the nation. As an opposition now, we are in the process, or what we have to go through is to check the government accountable. If they break the law, if they go against their own rules, for example, all this double standard accusation, we have to hold them accountable. And likewise, whoever has the majority, the person has the right to seek the audience with the king or to show his numbers. And if it is true, then we should move forward.
Akmal, thank you so much for speaking with us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Melisa. Thanks, Sharaad.
We're going to take a quick break on Consider This, but more on this topic in just a couple minutes. Stay tuned. Thank you so much for staying with Sharaad and I on Consider This. Let's continue our conversation about the evolving political landscape here in Malaysia. Anwar Ibrahim has been granted an audience with the Yang di-Pertuan Agong this Tuesday. Now, this will allow him the opportunity to present documentation to back his claim of having majority parliamentary support to form a new government. Joining us on the line now, we have Rais Hussin, member of the Supreme Council for Bersatu, the party of the Prime Minister. Good evening, Rais. Welcome back to the show. Now, Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin, has he lost his parliamentary majority?
Let me on the offset say two things. Number one, I'm no longer in the Supreme Council of Bersatu, but I am Bersatu member. And number two, about the claims and counterclaims and claims and counterclaims, I can go in about 3 times a vicious cycle of claims and counterclaims. Only the person who are claiming knows what he's talking about. So really, we do not know exactly what it is until the meeting takes place with the Yang di-Pertuan Agong.
But to your knowledge right now, does the Prime Minister still have the majority of Parliament support?
From what we hear, from what I know, I can clearly say that he still enjoys the majority, given the fact that GPS has come out and said solidly behind Tan Sri. The PAS has said the same thing. UMNO, by and large, have said the same thing. Bersatu have said the same thing. And most in the coalition have said the same thing, except an exception for 1 or 2 confusing statements by the UMNO president, who saying and sending confusing signals. But apart from that, it doesn't look like Tan Sri has lost the majority.
Rais, let's look at this question of the majority. Now, if the Prime Minister's majority is intact, as you said, it was a slim majority to begin with, shouldn't he try to prove that either by allowing for or encouraging a vote of confidence in his government? Wouldn't that be the surest way of putting to rest the question of both his legitimacy as well as the majority?
I think the recurrent theme of legitimacy of the government has been sort of proven during the earlier parliamentary sessions when most of the bills that has to be passed has been passed, albeit a small majority. My view is that we are facing a troika of challenges. Pandemic, as you know, we have vaccine not in a near sight at all. Then we have economy, global economy situation. We are going to be affected quite badly because we are a trading nation. And then the political conundrum. I think for a time being, as what Anthony Locke, my colleague in DAP, have said very clearly, perhaps there should be a ceasefire so that there can be a focus on rebuilding the country, facing the pandemic, facing the economic situation. And then when the time comes, let's fight back. So,
but Rais, has in fact the current administration acted in a way that's consistent with that view of kind of bringing everybody together? Just a case in point, the National Security Council held a meeting on Saturday and excluded the Pakatan Harapan governments of Selangor, Negeri Sembilan and Penang, two states of which are the powerhouses of the country's economy. The fact that they've excluded the Pakatan Harapan states, does it say something about the thinking of the current administration?
I think that is very wrong. I think we are facing this pandemic together, whether you are PH or PN or BN or MN or whatever, and we are facing it together. The coronavirus doesn't know how to differentiate between PN, MN, BN, PH, whatever, right? So we need to be mindful of that circumstances situation. Obviously, there are some angst among the people that whatever happened in Sabah got extended to Malaysia Peninsula, and therefore there are things happening. I just came back from Klang, just rushed to give some groceries to my mom, and she asked me a very simple question: why are these happening? We almost came out of it. So yeah, we almost came out of it, but some people are not patient enough, impatient to get things done, and therefore the rest of Malaysians have to endure the situation. I think I'm appealing, whoever listening to this, I'm appealing, especially the political masters, please, for God's sake, for Malaysia's sake, for the people's sake, enough of politics for some time, ceasefire. Anthony Locke came up with some ideas. I think the Parti Muda, the young group, came up with some ideas.
Right.
Let us consolidate and sit down and discuss and see what we can do, prioritize what we need to do.
It sounds like you are in support of this Pause Malaysia campaign.
I am in support of anything that is for Malaysia and for the many. It can be from anyone, because truth is truth. You cannot run away from truth. So, again, what Sadiq has been talking about, the three things, I've been tweeting about that so many months ago. And I keep on saying that our focus must remain to overcome the pandemic first, the economy first. Look, people are losing jobs. Unemployment and underemployment among the youth is very high. We have serious issues here.
Yeah, and I think everybody agrees with you, but it seems like the political elite still don't operate on that basis and are very confrontational. What can the current administration do, both not just to strengthen its own hold on power, but also kind of reach out to the other side of the aisle in order to stabilize the situation? Concrete steps to actually form some sort of national consensus. What would that look like?
I think we need to reach or enter ego-free zone among all the political masters across the aisle. And then for once, as I always say, look at what people, what people need. Last time I used to talk about what people want, now what people need. We are in dire straits. We know that. I mean, you look at our debt levels, it's going up. the moratorium was taken. I've been encouraging for the 3 months moratorium on the loans to be extended, but that has not happened. Now, look, people on the ground are suffering. People on the ground are losing jobs. People on the ground, and at this peak of the time, you want to start again politicking and all that. So I think let's be statesmen, good political statesmen.
Right.
I think, and I'm quoting Anthony Locke many times because he reached out just after I talked about these things. Anthony Locke reached out or given a public interview. Everybody knows that. Sadiq 2-3 days ago talked about this as well.
Right.
So I think
should Anwar Ibrahim desist? Do you think Anwar Ibrahim should not meet the Agong and not present his numbers?
I think Datuk Sri Anwar is a very magnanimous person. He has agreed to cooperate to liberate the country from the kleptocrats, despite whatever happened to him in the past. He's a magnanimous guy, and I think his magnanimity will eventually guide him. Sometimes, you know, when you have people around you telling you this, that, things goes out of hand. But I know Datuk Sri Anwar is not the type of person who puts him first. And I think coming back to the numbers again, claims, counter-claims, claims, counter-claims. Now, who do we believe? Now, assuming Datuk Sri Anwar provides that particular numbers to YDPA, and we also know we have the public declaration of support from GPS, from PAS,
right,
from most of UMNO, if not all, from Bersatu and all the other members in the coalition. So what? Go through the whole process of interviewing one by one. We do not need political instability at this time.
Right.
There is a time to fight. There is a time to reconcile. There is a time to put people first.
Okay, right.
Let us...
Yes, sorry to interrupt you, but we are running out of time, and I want to say thank you so much for joining us tonight, and I hope your mother is safe in Klang under the CMCO. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Let us pray for all the Malaysians to be safe.
Thank you very much.
And on that note, that's all we have for you on this episode of Consider This. I'm Melisa Idris.
And I'm Sharaad Kuttan, signing off for the evening.
Thank you so much for watching. Good night.